Okay, so we're in Autodesk Inventor 2020, and we're going to be going through kind of some more advanced 2D sketching today. So we're going to start with a part file. So we're going up to the top menu. Whoops, I clicked it and so did the drop down. And we're going to select part. And we're going to start 2D sketch. Okay, so we're mainly concentrating in the sketching ribbon here. We're mainly concentrating in this area, this move, copy, rotate, trim, extend, split, scale, stretch, offset, rectangular, circular, mirror patterning, and then constraints. So we're really hitting kind of everything in the 2D sketch area here, okay? Okay, so we have this, let's just start knocking them out. So we're gonna make a rectangle to kind of work with here. I'm gonna click OK. Move doesn't work the same as you might think. Usually in most graphics programs, you click move and you get the, this icon would just show up and you can just move it anywhere. This is kind of a throwback to other Autodesk programs. So in this case, you select the stuff you want to move. You can select individual lines, or you can click and drag to select everything you want to move. Then your second red arrow here, you select a base point that you want to move off of. If I click it. Okay, and then I basically can move relative to that point. If I click again, it's moved. Okay, and done. All right, the next one here is trim. So a lot of times you need to make kind of a shape inside of a shape. So for example, let's say we wanted to round off this rectangle and we wanted to just use part of the rectangle. So let's say we had something like this happening, okay? Or, a really good way to do things is to basically use basic shapes to make things like, like a particular thing will be like a collection of rectangles. So let's say that we have this kind of complex shape we want to make, and we make a bunch of basic shapes and we want part of it but not all of it. Okay, so trim is where this comes in. So basically if we click on trim, and notice that then the areas that we want to, the lines that we want to remove then are dotted. The one difficulty that people have with trim is that basically, let's say that we had a dimension on one of these lines. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the error here, but basically if you have a dimension on a line and you try to trim it out, a lot of times it will give you an error or something like this. So basically the thing, if a dimension is on the thing you're trying to trim, it will give you an error. Basically the solution is to right click OK. Delete the dimension. So click on the dimension, click the delete key on your keyboard, and then you can go back in and trim out whatever you want. Okay, the next thing is scale. So basically it's similar to move, right? We click on the first red arrow, click and drag to select, choose a base point, click on the base point, and then basically we're just moving it. It's a control. Basically how far away you are from the point results in some kind of scaling factor. You can also just put in a scaling factor here. So for example, if we wanted a scaling factor of 0.5, it would get smaller. If we had a scaling factor of 2, it would get larger. All right, the next thing we're going to do is stretch. So stretch is basically to deform something. So if we stretch it, we're going to select the thing we want to stretch. Okay, and then we're going to choose a base point like here, and then we can stretch it out like that. Okay, and done. All right, the next thing we're going to do here is that we're going to go ahead and use offset. Offset is really super, super useful. A lot of times we have concentric things we want. So for example, if you wanted like if you didn't want to extrude like a whole shape, you just want kind of the outline of it, offset is very useful. So for offset, we click on offset, we'd select a whole shape, and then basically we move in or out of that shape. Okay, so offset is really super useful. So rather than having to draw two identical shapes, basically offset just expands it out or contracts it in. And then obviously we could extrude this area in between. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is split. So split is really useful when you have, let's see here. Let's say we have two rectangles, okay? And basically, let's say we want to trim out this line. Now you notice the trim tool is working pretty well. Let's say though that we wanted to, let's see, what can we do? I'm forgetting. Okay, let's say that we wanted to like do something with this line, but it's like a whole line, right? Like it's like we can move it, but we want to basically turn this into multiple lines instead of just a single line. what we can do is we can use the split tool. So you click split, and then basically anywhere where there's an overlap of lines, we can insert a point, creating multiple lines where there was just one. Okay, and it can be useful in different spots. So you decide where it's useful. Okay, the next one is also really useful. Let's say that we've drawn a shape here. This happens all the time, but let's say we've drawn a shape here, and basically we haven't closed a figure. Okay, and we just want this line to continue over to the next adjacent line. We can use extend. So if we click extend here and we highlight this line, notice that it will jump over. So if we extend this line, it just jumps over to the next adjacent line, and then it kind of closes the shape for us. Okay, so that's a pretty useful one as well. All right, so those are the modify tools in Inventor. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do